Let's have a look at conjunctions. There are two kinds of conjunctions we're going to have a look at. The first one is a coordinating conjunction. Coordinating conjunctions are quite easy to find, and I'm going to show you how. Before we go on, let's have a look at these two clauses. A main clause and another clause. Every sentence consists of a main clause, and sometimes it also has another clause. Now, the glue that joins these two clauses together is called the conjunction. Remember, you don't join sentences together without a conjunction. Like I said, every sentence has a main clause, but if there is another clause, it has to be joined using a conjunction. You can join it using one of two types of conjunctions, the coordinating conjunction, which is the one we're going to look at now, and another one called the subordinating conjunction. Now let's first look at the coordinating conjunctions. The word that would be placed here would be one of these boys. We call them the fanboys. It's just an acronym for these words: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And those are really the only coordinating conjunctions that you get. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. When a clause starts with one of them, like this one, then automatically it changes that entire clause to become an independent clause. A main clause is also an independent clause. Now, when I have two independent clauses in one sentence, it turns it into something called a compound sentence. Just a reminder, a compound sentence is when I have an independent clause and another independent clause. And another reminder, a coordinating conjunction turns a clause into an independent clause. Now let's have a look at subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions are all the other conjunctions that you find. They are words like because, as, although, therefore, though, while, thus, and many more. And they also alter the clause. They turn a clause into a dependent clause. Remember we said that a coordinating conjunction turns it into an independent clause. So let's have a look at this. Here we have two clauses again. This clause does not have a conjunction, so we call it a main clause, and we know it will also be an independent clause. And the clause on this side starts with a conjunction. And this time it starts with a subordinating conjunction. I wrote an S here so that you will remember. A subordinating conjunction changes the meaning of the clause, and it turns this clause into a dependent clause. Now we will remember that the subordinating conjunction will be any of these words. And remember that these are not the only ones, there are quite a few more. I know it's not one of the fanboys. It will never be for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Now what happens when I have an independent and a dependent clause? What happens to the sentence? It turns it into a complex sentence. Let's have a look at this example. Bring it here so that I can see. When we look at a sentence and we want to determine where the conjunction is, we have to break it into its clauses. And we usually break it if there's a comma. Then let's find the main clause, the clause that does not have any conjunctions. And it seems to be this one. Bring it here. Bring it here. So that is our main clause. And we also know that a main clause is an independent clause. Let's have a look at the other clause. So that I can see. Do you notice the conjunction? So, let's see what kind of a conjunction it is. We're first going to test it to see if it's one of the fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. There we go. It is a fanboy. And those are the coordinating conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions turn clauses into independent clauses. It is important that you remember that this little guy is not called a fanboy. It is called a coordinating conjunction. Now, when I have two independent clauses, it turns my sentence into a compound sentence. Let's just go back and have a look at the conjunction. The conjunction was so, and we know that so is one of the coordinating conjunctions. A coordinating conjunction turns a clause into an independent clause. We also know that the sentence has a main clause with no conjunction, and because I have two independent clauses, it's called a compound sentence. Now let's look at the next sentence. Although he didn't see her, he knew she was there. Be careful. Here, the conjunction is actually right at the start of a sentence. We often find that with subordinating conjunctions. But let's do it the traditional way and break the sentence into its clauses. We break it at the comma, and then we look for the clause that has no conjunction. He knew she was there has no conjunction, and it's called the main clause. Let me make a block around it so that you can see it. It is called the main clause. Every sentence has one main clause. A main clause is always independent, and it does not have a conjunction. Now let's have a look at the other clause. Although he didn't see her. Although is the first word, and it is the conjunction. Now it's very clear to see that that is not one of the fanboys. Remember, fanboys are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Because this clause starts with a subordinating conjunction, although he didn't see her is changed, and the sentence has suddenly become dependent. Now, when I have a dependent clause and an independent clause, together they make a complex sentence. In this tutorial, you have seen that when we use subordinating conjunctions, they turn sentences into complex sentences because they make the clause dependent. And when we see coordinating conjunctions, which is not this one, it's one of the fanboys, it turns a clause into an independent clause, and therefore it changes it into a compound sentence.